Hello, welcome. If these stories speak to you, if you find comfort in the lessons found in the quiet corners of history, please check that you are following. It's a small way to contribute and say thank you, helping new viewers find us, and helping me to make better videos for you all. Let me know in the comments where you're listening, what time it is there, and let's journey into a life you haven't lived yet. Tonight, you are asleep beside your wife on a ship carrying a fortune in gold home across the bottom of the world. And in the dark, with no warning at all, there is a crash, and then a boom, and then the sound every sailor fears most, the sound of the seawater rushing in. You are in the water. You don't remember deciding to be here. One moment you were on the deck of the General Grant, your ship, your home for these last 10 days. And now, the cold has you by the chest and the salt is in your mouth, and somewhere above you, in the dark, 1,000 tons of timber is grinding itself to pieces against solid rock. Listen to it, that deep, tearing groan. That is the sound of masts the height of church steeples being driven down through the bottom of your own ship, because the swell keeps lifting her, and the roof of this cave keeps shoving back. You are inside the cliff. That is the part your mind keeps refusing. The sea didn't throw your ship onto the rocks. It carried her, gently, almost tenderly, straight into a cavern in the face of the land. And now there is stone above you where the sky should be. It is so dark you cannot see your own hands. You learned that hours ago in the worst way, reaching for a face in the blackness and finding only cold air. But you are not thinking about the dark right now. You are thinking about the rope in your fist. At the other end of that rope is Mary Ann, your wife. You stripped off your coat and your boots a minute ago, or an hour ago. Time has come unstitched. And you tied your own neck handkerchief around her head to keep her hair out of her eyes, the way you might fuss over her on a Sunday. Then you looped the line around her waist, and you lowered her down the side of the dying ship toward the little boat below. And then the boat pulled, and her weight came onto your arms, and a man named Tyr reached for her and could not get her in. And so you did the only thing left to do. You let go of the ship, and you went into the sea after her. Now you are kicking. Now you are hauling. Now you are getting your wife over the gunwale of a boat, the size of a garden shed, while the swell tries to fold the both of you under. And when she is finally in, finally down in the bilge water, shaking, alive, you look up. And you wish you hadn't, because the big longboat has come off the deck. 40 people. 40. Mothers, children, men. You ate breakfast beside this morning. The sea takes the longboat the way a hand sweeps crumbs from a table, and the breakers off the rocks turn it over. And then there is a sound you will never describe to anyone for the rest of your life. And then there is no longboat. There is only the dashing water, and the backwash off the cliffs, pulling them all down. High up, in the last of the rigging, your captain stands in the mizzen-top, William Laughlin, a good master. He is waving a white handkerchief. not for rescue. There is no rescue, but so that someone, anyone, will see him as he goes. And then the General Grant slides backward off the ledge of rock that held her, and the sea closes over the masts, and the captain, and the gold, and all of it, all at once, gone into 18 fathoms of black water. Dawn comes grey and merciless. 2 small boats. You start to count. 15 of you. 15 out of 83 souls who sat down to supper last night. And then your eyes go to the only shape in the boat wrapped in a shawl, and your stomach drops through the floor of the world. Because there were 6 women aboard the General Grant. 6 wives and mothers who waved at the harbour in Melbourne. And as you look from face to face to face in the cold grey light, your Mary Ann is the only woman left among 14 men. But this is not where it begins. It begins on calm water, a long way from here. A fortune in the hold beneath you, and your wife asleep at your side. To understand how you ended up in that cave, you have to go back to the very start. So let's go back. Welcome, Nightlings. This is Huxley. If you like listening or falling asleep to real stories that will reveal life's deeper truths, then this is the place for you. Consider subscribing and let the next story find you when you need it most. Now, find your softest pillow, find the warm edge of the blanket, let your shoulders drop, and let's begin. You are Joseph Jewell, and you have done a remarkable thing for a poor man. You have come out the other side of the goldfields with your life and a little money, and you are about to sail home. Let's get the shape of you. You were born in Clovelly, a village in Devon on the southwest coast of England. The kind of place that tumbles down a cliff to the sea in a single steep cobbled street, where the boats are the whole economy, and your father is a ship's captain, and the smell of the harbour is the smell of home. Close your eyes, and you can put yourself back there in a breath. The fishy reek of the cobbles, the donkeys that carry the catch up the hill, because no cart could manage that gradient. The lime-washed cottages stacked one above the other, like a stairway someone built for giants. Your father is Captain John Jewell, and you grew up with rope in your hands. The cold prickle of tarred hemp, the way a wet line bites the soft of your palm, the particular ache in the shoulders after a morning hauling nets. The sea is not an adventure to you. It's a trade, like a blacksmith's forge or a baker's oven. You know it the way you know your own name. But Devon in your young years was a place a man left. The old West Country mines, the tin, the copper, were closing one after another, and the work went with them. So you did what tens of thousands of hungry, hopeful young men did in those years. You and your brother Edwin packed up and followed the gold. Half the world was tilting toward Australia, toward the diggings of Victoria, where they said a man could pull a fortune out of a creek bed with his bare hands. Mostly that was a lie. You learned that the hard way. The cracked palms, the mud that gets into everything, the seasons of stooping over a creek for color that never comes. But not always. And you were one of the lucky stubborn ones who stayed long enough and worked hard enough to come away with something real. And here is the part that matters more than the gold. Somewhere in all of that, in Australia, far from the cobbles of Clovelly, you met a young woman named Mary Ann. And you married her. She's about 22. You can picture her, I think, without me telling you much, because you've known someone like her, quick, warm, braver than she lets on. The sort of person who makes a strange country feel like somewhere you could stay. But you don't want to stay. You want to take her home. You want to walk her down that one steep street in Devon and show her the harbour and buy a little holding with your gold and become, the two of you, the jewels of Clovelly. A sailor and his wife. A future paid for in advance. So in May of 1866, you book your passage on the General Grant. She's a fine ship, and you give her the once-over a sailor can't help giving. American-built, out of R. Morse and Sons, a yard up in Bath, Maine, and named for the Union General, barely 2 years old. 3 tall masts, 180 feet of her, give or take, more than 1,000 tons, bound from Melbourne, all the way to London. You run a hand along her rail and feel the newness in the wood, the paint still hard and unweathered, and something in your chest settles. And because you are a sailor, and a sailor doesn't sit idle while others work, you don't sail as a passenger. You sign on as crew, an able seaman. It means you'll stand your watches and earn your keep on the way home, which suits you fine. There's a kind of peace in it, if you're honest, to be useful, to have a rope to pull and a deck to scrub, and a place in the rhythm of the ship. There's just one wrinkle, and it tells you everything about Mary Ann. The General Grant isn't really set up to carry a crewman's wife. So to come aboard with you, she signs the ship's articles too, as a stewardess. On paper, she's a member of the crew. In truth, she never lifts a finger as one. She's simply paid her way and refused, politely and completely, to be left behind. It matters to you, this distinction. She paid, she's a passenger, not a working hand, and you'd correct anyone who said it was otherwise. Where you go, she goes. That's the whole arrangement. That's simply who she is. Now, the gold. You are not the only one aboard going home rich. The General Grant is, in a quiet way, a treasure ship. Down in her hold, locked in 2 strong boxes consigned by the Bank of New South Wales, sits something like 2,500 ounces of gold, bullion, insured for £165,000, which in 1866 is a sum to make a banker faint. There's honest cargo down there too. More than 2,000 bales of wool, baled tight and smelling of lanolin and sheep, stacks of hides and calfskins, bolts of woolens, and 9 tons of zinc spelter, a dull, cheap yellow metal that men will whisper about for 100 years, swearing it was gold in disguise. But the bank's 2 boxes are only the gold the ship admits to, because scattered through her cabins are dozens of men just like you. returning miners. Men who spent years in the mud and don't trust banks, don't trust paper, don't trust anything but the weight of metal against their own skin. So they've sewn it into the hems of their coats, stitched it into the linings of their trousers. One man, a big, capable Irishman named James Tier, is wearing a money belt with 300 golden guineas in it right now, as he walks the deck. You can almost hear it, can't you? The faint, careful chink of a man who's wearing his whole life around his middle. The whole ship is quietly, secretly heavy with gold. You like that if you're honest. There's a comfort to it. A whole community of men who did the hard thing and won, all sailing home together, their wives making friends across the rails, their children underfoot on the deck. It feels less like a voyage and more like a procession. The anchor comes up off Hobson's Bay, the windlass clanking, the dripping chain hand over hand, the smell of harbour mud lifting off the flukes one last time. Melbourne slides away astern, low and brown and shimmering in the autumn heat. Ahead of you lies the long way home, south and south and further south still, down toward the cold underside of the planet and around Cape Horn, the great circle route that the fast ships take. Weeks of empty ocean, and then England. The first days are fair, the way the start of a long passage so often is. You fall into the watches gladly. The dog watch chatter, the creak of the rigging, the slow heave of the deck under your boots that your body has known since you were a boy. Mary Ann makes friends among the families, the wives and their children, and you'll catch the sound of her laugh drifting aft on the wind and find yourself smiling at a rope for no reason a man could explain. At night, the two of you lie close in the cramped dark of the ship, listening to the water run along the hull, a plank's thickness away. And it is the most ordinary, most precious thing in the world to be tired and warm, and beside her, with home at the far end of the sea. 10 days out, give or take, you've run a long way south. You can feel it before you can name it. The light goes thin and grey and reluctant. The air loses the Australian heat and turns wet and cold against your cheek, the kind of damp that finds the seams of your coat. And the wind, see, the wind is the thing a sailor reads like other men read a face. The wind begins to fall away, softer each watch, as if the sea, this far down toward the bottom of the world, were holding its breath. You stand at the rail with your wife beside you and your future in the hold, and you think, and who could blame you, that the hard part is behind you. For 10 days the sea is kind. Let me give you these 10 days slowly, because they are good days, and good days deserve to be lived in. A ship at sea has a rhythm, and your body knows it the way it knows how to walk. The watches turn over, 4 hours on, 4 hours off. The bells marking the time across the day and the night. You take your turn at the wheel. At the lookout, hauling on the lines when the sails need trimming. Your hands remember everything. The rope runs through your palms, rough and salt-stiff, and finds the old grooves it wore there years ago, before any of this, before the goldfields, before Mary Ann, back when you were a boy in Clovelly watching your father, Captain John Jewel, work a deck like this one. There's a deep animal satisfaction in being good at a thing, and you are good at this. The tar and the wet hemp, the cold brass of the wheel spokes, the give of the planking under your bare feet. Your body reads all of it without being asked. The work is almost a pleasure, because at the end of it is home. And you are going home rich. Not rich like a lord, but rich enough. You and your brother Edwin left Devon years ago, when the West Country mines were dying, and a young man had to go to the far side of the world to make anything of himself. You dug, you scraped, and now, deep below your feet in the dark of the hold, sealed in 2 locked boxes, rides the Bank of New South Wales gold. Thousands of ounces of it, insured for a sum so large you can't quite hold the shape of it in your head. Around you, half the families aboard carry their own small fortunes the same way the miners always do, not trusting any bank, but sewn into the hems and pockets of their own clothes, riding against their bodies all the way to London. A whole ship of people, quietly, secretly heavy with gold. Going home, like you. Below decks, the General Grant is its own little town. There are 50-odd passengers, whole families of them. Miners and their wives, and scampering underfoot where they shouldn't be, somewhere around 20 children. And Mary Ann, who has never been able to sit still while there are people to know, has made herself the center of it. Now, by rights, your wife is a passenger. She paid her own way. But to sail beside you, with the crew, she signed the ship's articles as a stewardess. She has never once acted as one, and the very idea makes her laugh. The notion of Mary Ann fetching and tidying for anyone. A wife of yours, written down in the book as the help. It's a small lie of paperwork, a word on a page so the two of you needn't be parted by a wall of strangers. She's befriended the other wives. She minds the little ones when their mothers are seasick. In the evenings when your watch is done, you find her in a knot of women, laughing at something, and she looks up and finds you, and that look is the whole reason you crossed the world and came back. You eat together in the lamplight of a cramped cabin. Ship's biscuit, hard as a roof slate, that you soften against your teeth. Salt meat, cocoa, if you're lucky, warm and thin and bittersweet. The lamp swings on its hook, and the shadows lean one way, then the other, slow as breathing. The timber creaks and settles around you all night long, a sound so constant you stop hearing it, the way you stop hearing your own heartbeat. And below all of you, deeper in the dark of the hold, the wool bales and the hides and the 2 locked boxes ride along in the blackness, silent, patient, going home. It gets colder. You notice it the way a sailor does. First in the mornings, in the iron chill of the wheel and the stiffness of the wet lines, then all day. a cold that gets into the seams of your coat and stays. You're running south, deep south, on the great curving road that the fast ships take toward Cape Horn, down into the cold belt of ocean that wraps the bottom of the world, where there's no land to break the wind for thousands of miles, and the swells roll on forever, grey and enormous and slow. They lift the ship and set her down, lift and set down. A motion as patient as the sea has all the time there is. This is normal. This is the route. You've been in worse. But on the night of the 13th of May, something is a little bit wrong, and only a sailor would feel it. The wind is dying, not blowing up into a gale. You'd know what to do with a gale. It's softening, slackening. The sails that were taut all afternoon begin to sag and shiver and fill again, half-heartedly, like a man losing the will to argue. The canvas gives that loose, hollow flap overhead, the sound of a ship with nothing to push against. And there's fog, a thick, low grey fog that sits on the water and swallows the horizon, beads cold on your eyebrows, tastes of nothing but wet salt. You stand your evening watch in it, and you don't like it, though you couldn't say exactly why. The light wind, and a nasty short sea under it, and the ship hardly carrying steerage way. A vessel that won't answer her helm isn't a ship anymore. Not really. A ship needs wind the way you need breath. A ship with no wind isn't resting. A ship with no wind is helpless. Still, you're 100 and more miles from anywhere by the reckoning. Open ocean all around. There's nothing out here to be helpless against. When your watch ends, you go below. Mary Ann is already half asleep, curled small against the cold, her breath slow and warm in the dark. You lie down beside your wife in the narrow berth, and you fit yourself around her the way you have 100 nights, and the cold of the deck slowly leaves your bones. You listen to the creak of the timbers and the soft, confused luffing of the sails up above, and the ship rolls, slow and easy, on a sea gone almost flat. Soon, you think, drowsy, content, a man with everything he wants within arm's reach. Soon London, soon Clovelly, soon the whole long life you went and earned. You close your eyes. Outside, the fog presses soft against the hull, and the sea holds the ship the way you are holding her. You sleep. You wake to shouting. It's a sound that goes straight past your mind and into your spine. The particular pitch of a sailor's voice when something is wrong on deck. Not the ordinary holler of a watch change, not a man swearing at a fouled line. Lower than that. Tighter. A sound with the bottom dropped out of it. You're up and moving before you're properly awake, the way you've trained yourself to be after years of this. Your hand finding the edge of the berth, your bare feet finding the cold planking, leaving Mary Ann blinking in the dark behind you with the blankets still warm from the both of you. You don't think. You go. That's the trade a sailor makes. Your body answers the ship before your heart can answer your wife. You come up the companionway into a night so black and so still that for a moment you think you've gone deaf. The wind is gone, completely gone, dead calm. Now, you have to understand what that means to a man who lives by it. All night the rigging has been talking. The steady hum in the shrouds, the creak of blocks, the soft thunder of canvas drawing full. You've slept inside that sound for 10 weeks, the way a child sleeps inside a lullaby, and it has simply stopped. The sails hang slack and useless above you. Dark shapes against a darker sky, not so much as a flutter in them. The sea has gone oily and smooth, and in that great silence you can hear small things you should never be able to hear at sea. A man breathing hard at the rail, the slap of water against the hull, the creak of the wheel as the helmsman hauls it over and gets nothing back. And the ship is moving anyway. That's the thing your stomach understands before your head does. There's no wind to push her, and yet you can feel the General Grant traveling, sliding sideways through the water, drawn by something you cannot see. It's the swell. A long, heavy, oily swell that's been rolling up out of the southwest all night, born somewhere far off in the Southern Ocean. And it doesn't need wind. It just lifts the ship on its slow back and sets her down a little nearer and lifts her again. Set bodily toward the land. That's the phrase running cold through your head right now, over and over. The ship hardly has steerage way. A nasty short sea and not a breath to give the canvas bite. The men are at the rail, peering into the dark. Someone points. There, off to one side, low and grey, is what looks like a bank of fog, denser than the rest, a wall of it. Except fog doesn't have a top edge that hard. Fog doesn't stay still while the rest of the night streams past it. And as you stare, a cold spreads through you that has nothing to do with the night air. It starts somewhere behind your breastbone and goes out to your fingers. And you understand what every man at that rail is understanding in the same terrible second. That's not fog. That's land. It's the Auckland Islands. A scatter of uninhabited rock and cliff and tussock 500 kilometers south of New Zealand, in a stretch of ocean so storm-raked and ship-hungry that sailors who know it call it a graveyard. And you are not sailing past it. You are being delivered to it. Slowly, helplessly, hand over hand by a swell that has no malice in it and no mercy either, on a ship with no wind to claw herself away. Near 11 o'clock at night. You note it the way a drowning man notes a clock, uselessly exactly. The captain knows it. Laughlin's voice comes down the deck, and orders crack out into the dark, and you throw yourself into the work because work is the only answer a sailor has. You haul. You sweat in the cold. You try to wear the ship, to coax her head around, to find any scrap of steerage, any half a knot that might let her crab away from that wall. But here is the cruelty of a dead calm, and you've known it your whole life and never felt it like this. A sailing ship is a creature of the wind, and a ship without wind is a log. You can no more turn her than you can turn a fallen tree with your shoulder. The sails won't bite. The rudder's just dragging dead water. And the cliffs, you can see them properly now. Black and sheer and impossibly tall, rising straight up out of the sea with no beach, no shelf, no shingle at their feet. The cliffs are coming closer with every long, slow heave under your boots. Someone heaves a lead line over the side to find the bottom. The chant comes back thin in the dark. 25 fathoms under her stern. Deep. Far, far too deep to let an anchor reach and hold. See, the land here doesn't wade out to meet you the way a friendly coast does. It drops away like a wall straight down into the black. There is nothing to hook into, nothing to bite, nothing in all that cold water to hold you off. And the whole time, some small steady voice underneath the noise of you is saying her name. Mary Ann. She is below you in this ship, in the dark, and you are up here, and there's nothing your hands can do about the one thing your heart wants done. You make yourself not think about it. You haul on the next line. You measure the distance to the cliff. A sailor in trouble lives one task at a time, because the whole picture would drown him where he stands. She strikes for the first time around 1 in the morning. It's a shudder you feel through the soles of your feet and up through your teeth, and a crash from forward as the jib boom, the long spar that reaches out ahead of her bow, snaps clean off against the rock. The whole ship reels with it. She staggers back, swings, and the swell drags her astern, half a mile out into the dark. And for one wild, lifting moment, there's hope in your chest, hot and stupid and good. Maybe she'll claw clear. Maybe the sea's done with her. But the swell just gathers her up again, patient as breathing, and sets her down against a second shoulder of rock, harder this time. And this time, you hear her die a little more. The spanker boom carries away aft with a groan of splitting timber, and then the rudder, the whole rudder, torn clean off her stern post, and a cry as the man at the wheel is flung down by the force of it, the spokes whipping out of his hands. With the rudder gone, the last thread is gone. She isn't a ship anymore. She's wreckage that hasn't finished happening yet. And then the swell turns her. Slow and deliberate as a key in a lock, it walks her sideways towards a deeper blackness in the base of the cliff, a place where the rock face simply opens. You stare at it, and your sailor's mind refuses it, the way the eye refuses a thing it has no name for. It can't be. It's the wrong shape for the world. The cliff is solid, and then it isn't. There's a hole in the mountain, a mouth yawning blacker than the night around it, a cave, an enormous sea cave, and the swell is carrying your ship straight into it, bow first, into the dark under the rock, and the sound changes as she goes. The open sea wind and wave hush, folding into something close and echoing and wrong. Water booming on stones somewhere ahead in the black. You grip the rail until your knuckles ache. The cold of the iron is in your palms. Behind you, below you, somewhere in the belly of this dying ship, your wife is waking to all of this. And the General Grant glides into the cliff, and the last of the night sky disappears above her masts. Inside the cave, the world ends one sense at a time. First the light. The moment the masts pass under the lip of rock, the last grey of the night sky is gone, and you are in a darkness so total it has a weight to it. You hold your hand in front of your face, and there is nothing. Not a shape, not a shade of grey, not the ghost of your own fingers. Nothing. You've been in dark holds and dark nights. You've stood night watches with no moon and a sky like spilled ink, but never anything like this. This is not the dark of the open sea. This is the dark of being inside the earth. It closes over your eyes like cold water, and your other senses lurch forward to fill the empty place where your sight used to be. The way a man who's lost a limb still reaches with it. Then the sound arrives to fill the space the light left. And what a sound! The swell that carried you in here doesn't stop at the cave mouth. It has nowhere to go, you see. No beach to break on, no shoal to spend itself against. So it keeps rolling into the enclosed rock, and it lifts the whole ship up, and presses her masts against the roof of the cavern. And the masts do not bend, they break. You hear the foremast go first, a crack like a cannon, but worse than any cannon, because the stone walls catch it and throw it back at you, doubled, trebled, so the sound seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. And then the long shrieking tear of it coming down through the rigging, shrouds and stays parting one by one with a noise like enormous strings. The swell drops the ship. Your stomach drops with it. Then the sea lifts her again, patient, unhurried, and again the masts grind into the roof, and again something gives. The bowsprit and the cathead beside it sheared clean off with a crash you feel in your teeth and in the soles of your feet through the canting deck. And now it isn't only timber coming down. Now there is rock. The grinding of the mastheads against the cave roof has shaken the stone itself loose, and you hear the boulders fall. A different sound entirely. A dead, heavy plunging crash, smashing down through the deck, through the forecastle, through the starboard deckhouse, anywhere, everywhere, in a blackness where you cannot see them coming and cannot dodge what you cannot see. You only flinch at the noise. Every man of you flinching at every crash, like creatures in a snare. This is the moment you understand that the ship is not aground. The ship is being killed. Slowly, by inches, by the patient machinery of the swell. Lift and grind and drop. Lift and grind and drop. There is no rage in it. That's the thing your mind keeps snagging on, there in the dark. There is no rage in it at all. A storm at least has a kind of fury you can hate. This is just wait. Water doing what water does, finding the ship and unmaking her with the slow patience of something that has all the time in the world and knows it. The captain's voice cuts through it. Laughlin, somewhere forward of you in the black. and you cling to that voice the way you'd cling to a rope, because a voice giving orders means a man still thinking, and a man still thinking means there might yet be a way out of this. He's calling everyone aft, to the back of the ship, away from the falling masts and the falling rock, and the order is to wait. Wait for daylight. Because to put a boat into that black water now, with spars and stone raining down out of the dark, and not a thread of light to launch by, is simply to choose how you die. So you gather, all of you, at the stern. Passengers come stumbling up from below in their night clothes, barefoot on the slanting wet deck. The miners, the wives, the children, some crying, some past crying, some too frightened even to make a sound, the injured helmsman, the man who was at the wheel when she struck the second time, and the rudder tore away. He's among you, hurt, being helped aft by the others, and you wait. Now, I want you to sit in this with me for a moment, because the survivors never forgot it, and you shouldn't pass over it too quickly. You wait there, in that cave, in that dark, for 7 hours. 7 hours. Listen to how long that is. It is the length of a full night's sleep. It is a working day, dawn to mid-afternoon. And you spend every minute of it pressed shoulder to shoulder at the stern of a dying ship, in a blackness where, and this is the survivor's own phrase, the man whose eyes you're seeing through, it is so dark that you cannot see your fingers before your eyes. You can only hear the boom of the swell rolling in, every wave of it announcing itself before it lifts you. The grind of the masthead stumps on the stone overhead, the crack and the fall of rock, the breathing of 70 frightened people in the dark, close enough that you feel the warmth of them, smell the wet wool and the salt, and the sour edge of fear coming off all of you together. Somebody praying, low and steady, the same words over and over. Somebody weeping, trying not to, which is worse, and underneath it all, rising slowly, hour by hour, the gurgle and slosh of water finding its way into the ship. A small domestic sound, almost gentle, the sound of a kettle or a flooding cellar, and it is the most terrible sound of them all, because you know exactly what it's counting down. Mary Ann is beside you. You found her in the dark. You don't even remember how, only that your hand closed on her hand in all that blackness, and you knew it was hers, and you do not let go. Her fingers are cold in yours, and she's shaking, not weeping, just shaking, a fine continuous tremble, like a struck wire. There is nothing to say that would help. Anything you could tell her would be a lie, and she's too clever for lies, your wife. So mostly you say nothing. Now and then you press her hand, and now and then she presses back, and that is the whole of your conversation through the longest night of your lives. You just hold on, and you wait for light, and you listen to your ship die around you in the blackness, and you count the hours by the slow flooding of the hold. What do you feel in those 7 hours? Not bravery. Bravery is for afterward, for the stories told by the fire to people who weren't there. In the cave there is only a kind of animal patience, a holding on, a narrowing of the whole self, down to one small ember of a hope. The dawn. Just the dawn. If you can only last until you can see, you tell yourself, then there'll be a chance, and a chance is all a sailor ever asks. So you ration your fear the way you'd ration water on a long pull. You take a little when you must, and you put the rest away. You squeeze your wife's hand. You think, absurdly, of Clovelly, of the steep cobbled street going down to the harbour, of your father, of a life so far from this black cave that it might belong to another man entirely. And somewhere far down in the drowning dark of the flooding hold, 2 locked boxes of bank gold sit exactly where they've sat the whole voyage long, 2,500 ounces of it, worth a fortune, worth a kingdom, worth nothing at all down here, waiting with the rest of you for the morning, the richest thing aboard, and it cannot buy you a single one of those 7 hours back. And after 7 hours, the morning comes, a greyness at the cave mouth, the faintest, meanest grey, the colour of dishwater, of cold ash, and you have never in your whole life been so glad to see anything. Shapes begin to resolve themselves out of the black, the way a developing photograph swims slowly up out of nothing. The broken stumps of the masts, the canted, ruined deck with its splintered planking and its scattered stone, the white faces all around you, hollow-eyed, turned toward that grey mouth as if it were the gate of heaven. And now that you can see everything, including how low she sits, how the water stands in the waist of her, how little of your ship is left above the sea. You can see how little time is left. The captain gives the order, get the boats away. There are 3 boats, and one of them is already as good as a coffin. From where you stand, there's no telling which. Standing on the canted deck in the grey first light, with the cave breathing its cold salt breath around you and the water already over your ankles where it shouldn't be, all 3 look the same. All 3 look like hope. That's the cruelty of a morning like this one. It hands you 3 chances and lets you believe in all of them at once. The 2 small ones go first. The quarter boats, little open things barely 20 feet long, the kind of boat you'd think twice about in a harbour on a calm day. A handful of men get the first one down and away over the stern into the heaving water at the cave mouth. 3 of them. You watch them drop into the chop and pull hard, oars biting, faces white and set, and the swell snatches the little boat and lifts it and carries it out toward the daylight. They make it. They actually make it. And something in your chest unclenches half an inch. Then the second boat. The ship's gig, 5 aboard, and among them the big Irishman, Tyr, broad as a door, ex-gold miner's hands, the kind of man you find yourself watching in a crisis without quite knowing why. They get the gig down and away, and they pull clear, out toward the light. And then they hold there. They don't run. That's the thing you notice, even now, even in all this. They hold in the chop, just outside, rising and falling, oars working just enough to keep their place, because the rest of you are still aboard. And there's still the longboat. The longboat is the big one, the one that's meant to save everybody. It sits up on the deck where it's lashed, and as the ship settles lower and the sea climbs higher, it becomes the single focus of every hope left alive. You can feel it happen. Feel the whole crowd of you turn toward it the way cold men turn toward a fire. Get the longboat down. Get the women and the children into it, and live. So people press in around it, and the men sweat and strain at the lashings and the falls, and maybe 40 of them climb aboard, or cling to its sides, packed in, soaked, praying, waiting for it to swing out and down and carry them off this dying ship. And that's when the main topmast comes down. It's been hanging by threads all night, that mast. You've listened to it grinding against the roof of the cave for 7 hours in the dark, a sound that's still in your teeth right now. And now, in the daylight, where you can finally see it, it lets go. It comes down with a noise like the sky tearing, and the heel of it, the great butt end of the spar, heavy as a felled tree, drives straight down through the bottom of the ship. You feel it more than hear it. You feel the General Grant shudder all through her timbers and begin to go. Fast now, all at once. There's no more slow about it. The sea comes up over the stern, over the poop deck, green and cold and certain, and it lifts the loaded longboat clean off the deck. And for one heartbeat, one single heartbeat, there's a wild surge of hope, because the longboat is floating, the longboat is free, the longboat is away. And then the breakers take it. You watch it happen. God help you, you can't not watch. The swell coming off the rocks rears up under the boat and turns it over, slow and total, the way a child turns a toy, and 40 people go into the water in an instant. And then comes the worst of it, the part the sea saves for last, the backwash. That terrible suck of water draining back off the cliffs, the undertow, and it takes them. It drags them down before they can do more than reach up. Hands, you see hands. The survivor, whose eyes you're seeing through, had a phrase for it, just the one, because some things can only be said once and never again. Her heavy human freight in the midst of great dashing waves. And then, not. The boat is bottom up, and the water is just water again, heaving, grey, empty. Out in the chop, the men in the 2 small boats are dragging swimmers in over the gunwales where they can reach them. A man named Ashworth, a man named Hayman, another called Sanguily, hauled up streaming and half dead. A handful. Out of 40. You don't have time to grieve. That's the thing nobody tells you about a morning like this. You don't even have time to understand it, to let it land, because the ship is dying under your own boots right now, and Mary Ann is beside you, and you have seconds, not minutes, seconds. So you move. Your hands move before your mind catches up. You shed your coat and your boots and pull them off and let them go, so the sea can't fill them and use them to drag you down. Already you're thinking like a drowning man. Already you're stripping for the water. You pull the handkerchief from your own neck and you tie it around your wife's head. A small thing, an absurd thing, a tender thing, just to keep her hair from her eyes. And your fingers are shaking, and you do it anyway, because it's the one gentleness left that you can give her. Then you get a line, a rope from the end of the studding sail boom, and you make it fast around her waist, and you lower her over the side toward Tyr's boat, down into the chaos of cold water and bucking timber. Tyr reaches for her. Those big hands reach down and get a hold and pull, and he can't quite get her in. She's a dead weight now, soaked wool and terror and cold-locked limbs, and the gig is bucking under him, and the sea won't be still long enough. He hauls at her sodden clothes, trying to drag her up and over the gunwale, and she won't come. And there's a moment, you see it, where it might not happen at all. So you don't think. There's no decision in it. You go over the side after her, into water so cold it stops your breath in your throat. Cold like a fist closing on your whole body. And you get your own hands under her, and with the last of whatever you have left, you put your wife into that boat. You lift her in, and then you haul yourself up and in behind her, scraping over the wood, into the bilge, into the boat, alive. And the General Grant slides backward off the rock. You see your captain one last time. William Laughlin, master of the ship, part owner of her, a New York man, a long way from home, high up in the mizzen top, the last spar still standing clear of the rising water. And there's another soul up there beside him, and he's waving a white handkerchief, not signaling, not asking to be saved. There's no saving him, and he knows it. You can tell from here that he knows it. He's just waving, so as to be seen, so as not to go down into the dark unwitnessed, unmarked, alone. One man with a scrap of white cloth telling the morning, I was here. And then the sea takes the mizzen, and takes the captain, and takes the whole of the General Grant, and a fortune in gold sewn into pockets and locked in 2 boxes below, down into 18 fathoms of cold, dark water. The surface closes over it. The swell rolls on as if none of it had ever been, and the cave is just a cave again. Grey morning. 2 small boats rising and falling on the long swell, the cliffs streaming black water above you. And you start to count the living. 15 people. Last night at supper there were 83. You count again, because the number can't be right. Because no number that small can be right after a ship that full. But it's right. 9 of the crew, 6 of the passengers, 15 souls in 2 open boats, soaked through and shaking with a cold that's gone past, shivering into something quieter and worse. The cliffs towering black and indifferent above you, the Southern Ocean breathing all around. 15. You hold the number in your mouth, and it tastes like nothing you have words for. And then, slowly, because you don't want to, because some animal part of you already knows and is begging you not to look, you look for the women. There were 6 women aboard the General Grant. You'd seen them at supper, heard them on the long, fair days of the early voyage, watched Mary Ann make friends among the wives and the children in that other life that was only yesterday. You watched some of them go down with the longboat into the great dashing waves. The rest, the sea simply took in the dark, in the 7 hours when you could not see your own fingers. And now your eyes move from face to grey-wet face in the 2 boats, from man to man, looking, hoping, counting, and you arrive at the truth, and there is nowhere on this earth to put it. Mary Ann, your Mary Ann, with your own handkerchief still knotted around her head, shaking in the bilge water at your feet, alive, breathing, here. There is no time to feel it. That comes later, much later, and for the rest of your life. Right now, there is only the next problem, and the next, because you are 15 people in 2 open boats, off the most hostile coast in the Southern Ocean, and the ship that was your whole world is gone. Behind you, the cliffs are still throwing back the sound of the swell, that slow heave and boom that fills your ears even now. And somewhere in the dark of that cave is everything you owned and almost everyone you knew. You don't look back. You can't. To look back is to stop, and to stop is to die. And so you put your eyes on the grey water ahead, and your hands on the loom of an oar that's already wet, already cold, already trying to slide out of your grip. You can't land here. You can see that much. The cliffs go straight down into deep water, no beach, no cove, nothing to climb onto. Just black rock streaming with white, where the sea breaks against it and slides back, and over it all the cry of birds wheeling out from the ledges, indifferent, going about their mourning as if no ship had died in the night. So you do the only thing there is to do. You point the boats north, toward the far end of these islands, where someone thinks there might be shelter, and you row. And here begins an ordeal that the wreck, for all its horror, was at least merciful enough to make quick. The wreck took a night. The open boats take 3 days. 3 days. Soaked to the skin the entire time, in 2 boats barely 22 feet long, with no shelter and almost no freeboard, the gunwale, a hand's breadth above water that is itself only a few degrees from ice. It's nearly winter down here, the middle of May, at the bottom of the world, and the cold isn't a thing you fight. It's a thing that wins, slowly, by degrees. It snows on you. Of course it snows. The flakes come slantwise out of a sky, the color of pewter, and melt the instant they touch you, because you're already wet. And the wind takes that wet and drives it through your shirt and your trousers and finds the bone underneath. You've been cold before. Every sailor has. But you have never been this cold, this long, with no fire at the end of the watch and no dry bunk to crawl into. There is no end of the watch. There is only the next watch. So you bail, and you row, and you bail, and you row. You take turns. Those who can pull, pull. Those who can't, work the bailer, or just shake, packed down low out of the wind. The sea slops in over the bow with every other swell and pulls cold around your feet, and you scoop it out with a tin and a cap and your cupped hands, and it comes back. It always comes back. And the islands crawl past on your left, black cliffs, white surf, the dark smear of forest above. No way in, no way in, no way in. While your shoulders burn, and then ache, and then go to a kind of numb, mechanical rhythm that isn't strength anymore, just habit, just refusal. At night you don't sleep so much as endure the dark, and wait for a grey dawn that brings no warmth at all, only enough light to see how far you still have to go. And Marianne is failing. She's wedged down in the bottom of the boat, out of the worst of the wind, in a space too small to lie in and too small to sit up in, soaked through, freezing, hour after hour after hour, with no way to move and warm her own blood. The handkerchief is still knotted round her head, your handkerchief, the one you tied there in the water to keep her hair from her eyes. A small square of cloth that is the only thing you've managed to give her, and not enough, not nearly enough. You do what you can, which is almost nothing. You put your own body between her and the wind. You get your arms around her when it's not your turn at the oar, and you press what little warmth you have left into her, and you tell her, quietly, so the others don't hear how little you believe it, that it isn't far now. That there'll be a fire soon. That you're nearly there. The damage being done to her in these 3 days is real, and it's lasting. The cold and the cramping are taking the use of her limbs, hour by hour, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. The version of you in this boat just keeps her breathing, and keeps her named, and keeps rowing. And here's the cruelty of it. The wreck was terror, fast, loud, over. You could fight that. There was a thing happening, and you did something about it. You stripped off your coat and your boots, and you went over the side, and you got her into the boat with your own hands. This is not that. This is the slow, grinding kind of suffering that has no drama in it at all. Nothing to fight, nothing to do but bear it. Just cold and wet, and the ache of muscles long past their limit, and the salt cracking your lips, and the salt in the splits of your knuckles, where it stings with every stroke, on and on. You stop thinking about rescue. You stop thinking about the gold, or home, or Devon, or any of it. You measure your whole life in the next stroke of the oar. Pull. Recover. Pull. The boat creeps forward the length of itself. That's the whole world. That's everything there is. But here's the thing about you, Joseph, about all 15 of you. You keep rowing. There's no decision in it, no speech, no rallying cry. Nobody stands up in a pitching boat to give a sermon. You simply do not stop. Stroke after stroke after stroke around the top of the island, suffering from cold and hunger and a thirst that's somehow worse, surrounded by all that undrinkable water. 2 days and 2 nights of it, and then more, until at last the cliffs begin to fall back. The surf line eases. The water under the boats goes from the deep heave of the open sea to something quieter, darker, more sheltered. and the land opens up around you into a wide, drowned arm of water at the northern end of the island. A great natural harbor the old sealers gave a name to years ago when they came here for skins and then left. Port Ross. And there, on the shore, where you have no right to expect anything at all, you see huts. They're empty, long abandoned, the bones of a settlement that men tried to plant here and gave up on years back, roofs caved in, walls slumping, the forest already taking it back. But walls, but shelter, and the staggering, unspeakable luxury of a flat place to lie down that isn't moving, that won't pitch you into freezing water if you close your eyes. You bring the boats in over the shallows. You feel the keel touch actual ground, solid, still, and the strangeness of it goes up through your legs. You get out into the cold shallows and you haul, and your legs hardly hold you. You get your wife up out of the bottom of the boat, lift her because she can't lift herself, and carry her onto dry land. You get 15 people out of the wind for the first time in 3 days. You've survived the sea. Now you have to survive the island. And out here, soaked to the skin with the night coming on, surviving begins with the oldest problem there is. You have to get warm. Here is what you have, the 15 of you, on the shore of an uninhabited subantarctic island, 500 kilometers from the nearest other human being. You have the soaked clothes on your backs. You have 2 battered boats, the same boats that carried you 3 days through open water with the snow coming down sideways. The boats you and the others rowed until your hands forgot they were hands. You have a knife or 2. You have whatever was in a man's pockets when the ship went down. You do not have food beyond what you can catch. You do not have dry clothes, or blankets, or medicine, or a single one of the 1,000 small things that stand between a person and the cold. You've come ashore at the quiet north end of the island, a place an old map calls Port Ross, and there's a small, strange mercy waiting here. Up the slope, half swallowed by tussock, stand a few abandoned huts. Other men were here once and gave up and left. There's even a hut a little apart, the one they call Musgraves, low and dark and dripping, built by sailors off another wreck before yours. So you are not the first. That's the only comfort the place offers, and you take it because it's the only one there is. There's no depot, no stores, no drum of biscuit and matches left for the likes of you. Just empty roofs and the rain finding the holes in them. What you have, more than anything, is wind and rain. You learn that about this place above all else, and you learn it fast. It rains here, or sleets, or blows a gale, on something like 300 days of the year. The wind doesn't gust so much as lean, a steady, patient pressure that finds the gap in your collar and stays there. And behind it, that sound that never quite stops, the surf working the rocks, and somewhere down the beach, the sea lions, the big hooker's bulls, blackish and shaggy and the size of a pony, roaring at each other across the haul out like the island itself is grumbling in its sleep. The cold isn't the clean, killing cold of the ice. It's worse, in its way. It's a wet, grey, bone-deep cold that never lets you dry out, never lets up, never lets you forget it. A man can die of this cold without anything dramatic happening at all. He just gets wet and stays wet and gets cold and stays cold, and one morning he doesn't get up. The one thing, the only thing, that stands between all of you and that quiet death is fire. And fire means a match. So someone goes through the pockets. Every pocket, every man, while the light goes the color of dishwater, and Mary Ann sits close against you, shaking, with the use not yet come back to her cramped limbs. And what comes out between the lot of you is a pitiful little handful of matches, and every one of them has been in the sea. Soaked. Useless. A wet match is just a small wooden lie. One of the men takes them and does the only thing he can think to do. He tucks them against his body, in his hair, anywhere there might be a scrap of warmth, and he waits. And he dries them, the most precious objects in the world now, more precious by far than the gold sitting in the cave behind you. You watch his hands while he waits. Everyone does. Nobody says much. What is there to say? You break up what you can find, and there's precious little dry on an island where nothing is ever dry. You go on your knees in the wet grass, and you gather it, the inside curls of dead tussock, fine shavings cut thin off a scrap of wood, the brittle underskirts of the rata scrub where the rain hasn't quite reached. You build it small, the way you'd build a thing you loved. And then, gathered around that little pile, hunched so your backs take the wind, you try. The first match doesn't light. The wood's too damp. A breath of wind, and it's gone. The second one sparks and dies. You feel exactly what's riding on this, all of you do, with perfect clarity. This is the most critical moment of your lives, and you know it, the way frightened people know true things. If the last match fails, then starvation, and perhaps worse than starvation, is what's left to you. Sitting on that grey shore, you all know it cold. If the matches fail, all of them, there is no fire. And with no fire, there is no warmth, no cooked food, no drying out, no boiling seawater for salt, no smoke to signal a passing ship. With no fire, the slow grey cold simply wins. The difference between living and dying has come down to whether a damp splinter of wood will catch. A third match. Nothing. Your own heart is going like a fist on a door. A fourth. You feel it then, that terrible arithmetic, the pile getting smaller, the dark getting closer, and somewhere underneath your fear, a small, shameful, animal calm, because a body that cold stops being able to be afraid for very long. Mary Ann's hand finds your sleeve. You don't look at her. You can't, not yet. And then, down to nearly the last of them, the small flame on the match head catches a curl of dry grass, and the grass catches a shaving. And a man cups his frozen hands around it like it's the most fragile thing ever made. because it is, and he breathes on it, so gently, too gently, you think, surely too gently to do any good, and the little flame holds, and grows, and takes. You have fire. I don't think there's a word for what 15 freezing, shipwrecked people feel in the moment a fire catches. Relief is too small. It's closer to being born. The light of it jumps up onto all those gaunt faces, faces you've only seen in grey for 3 days, and suddenly there's gold in them again, the real kind, the warm kind. The first heat any of you have felt in days reaching your hands, your faces, your soaked and shaking bones. You smell it, wood smoke and wet wool starting, just barely, to steam. You hear it, that small, busy crackle, the most ordinary sound in the world, and the sweetest you have ever heard. Beside you, Marianne's shaking eases by a degree, just one, and you feel something in your own chest let go that you didn't know you'd been holding since the cave. See, this is the night something settles among you, quietly, without a vote. There's a ship's officer here, but it's the burly Irish gold miner, Tia, whose hands brought this fire up out of nothing. And it's to Tia the rest of you turn now. The fire is his, and so, somehow, are all of you. Not by rank, by the simple fact that when it mattered most, he was the one who didn't let it go out. And right there, in that first moment, you all make a silent promise to that fire. You promise it the rest of this autumn and the whole of the winter, and whatever grey days come after, that it will not go out, not once, that someone will always be feeding it, guarding it, carrying it. You can feel the size of the promise as you make it. It means a man lying awake on the coldest nights just to listen for it, just to be sure. It means, for as long as you are stranded on this forgotten island at the bottom of the world, there is always a fire. That's the promise you make tonight, around this small flame, and every one of you means it. It's the first thing you've won. And tonight, it's enough. Morning, on the island. The fire is still burning. Someone sat up with it all night, feeding it, and that someone has a name and a place on a list, because out here you are organized, all of you, very fast. Survival, it turns out, is mostly admin. You wake before you mean to, the way you wake here now. There's no proper waking out here, no soft drift up into the day, just cold, doing what cold does, working its way through the seal skin and the damp wool beneath it and into the meat of you, until your body decides the shivering isn't worth the lying down anymore. You open your eyes to a low grey ceiling of cloud, the same grey as yesterday, the same grey it will be tomorrow. Somewhere off in the murk, a sea lion is bellowing. The smell of the place comes to you first, before anything, wood smoke and brine, and under it, the deep rank reek of the haul-out beaches. That oily animal stink you've already stopped being able to smell, except in the first raw minute of the morning. You lie still a moment longer. You listen for your wife's breathing beside you, slow and even, and only when you've found it do you let yourself get up. But first, you have to eat. And here is where you meet the strange providence of this terrible place. The Auckland Islands give you almost nothing a person would choose. But they give you one thing in abundance, and that thing is sea lions. Great hulking hookers sea lions, the bulls as big as a pony and twice as bad-tempered, 12 feet of blackish-brown muscle with coarse manes round their necks, like old lions gone wrong, hauled out on the shingle in numbers, roaring and reeking and unafraid. And that's the thing about them, they are not afraid of you, because nothing has ever taught them to be. No man has ever stood on this beach and done them harm. So they let you walk right up. They lift those great heads and look at you with their wet, dark eyes, almost curious, and you have to make yourself do it. You learn to kill them quickly with a club, a blow across the nose where they're tender, and you learn to do it over and over, because there are 15 of you, and a sea lion doesn't last forever, and there is precious little else. You kill, between you, more than 1,000 of them across this ordeal. You stop counting somewhere in the hundreds. You stop, after a while, feeling much of anything at all, which is its own quiet sorrow, if you let yourself think on it, so mostly you don't. Let me be honest with you about the food, because the survivors were. Seal meat, morning and night. Strong, dark, greasy seal meat. You cut it in strips and lay it across the fire, and the fat spits and flares, and the smell of it cooking is the smell of being alive another day. For the first while, it gives every one of you a misery of the bowels that I'll leave to your imagination. But the body is a patient animal. It learns. You supplement the meat with whatever else the island grudgingly offers, the great mollyhawks and the royal albatross with their 3-yard wings taken off the nests. Their eggs in season, warm and enormous in your 2 hands, mussels and limpets, you pry off the wet rocks with a blade until your fingers go numb, a few bitter roots. Later, on another island, the wild pigs that earlier visitors had left. But the spine of every meal, month after month, is seal. You come to know the taste, the way you know your own name, and you come to dream, helplessly, shamefully, of other things. And here's a detail the man whose life you're living never forgot, and I want to give it to you whole, because it tells you everything about the monotony of survival. In 18 months and 7 days here, the 15 of you never once taste bread. Not a crumb. And in all that time, between the lot of you, you share exactly 1 potato. 1. A piece over a year and a half. Bread and a potato, the most ordinary food in the world, the food you never once thought about on the ship, the food a man steps over crumbs of without a glance, become things out of a dream. There are nights you can taste the bread you aren't eating. A hot loaf, the crust of it. You'll catch your mind there sometimes, mid-chew with the grease on your lips, and you have to gently walk yourself back. Now, you don't survive on grit alone. You survive on organization. And the man who provides it is James Tier. You remember Tier, the big Irish gold miner, The one with the 300 guineas in his belt. Useless now. Every coin of it worth less than a dry match. There are ship's officers among you, men who outrank a miner by every rule of the sea. There is the chief officer, Brown, who carries his rank like a coat that no longer fits, and who is sinking, day by day, into a quiet that frightens you to look at. Because rank dissolves on a beach at the end of the world, and what's left is whoever people actually follow. And people follow Tyr. He sets up a roster, watches, fire tending, hunting, the endless labor of staying alive, divided up and written down, every man his turn. He keeps a calendar, scratched onto a dried seal skin with the point of a knife, a notch, a mark, a Sunday, so that you don't lose the days, so that time doesn't just dissolve into one endless grey smear with no edges to hold. And this is the part that matters most when the despair comes, and it comes for everyone. It comes for you. Some grey afternoon when the wind hasn't stopped in 4 days, and you cannot for the life of you remember why you're bothering. It is Tyr who drags the group back to its feet and back to the routine. Not with speeches, with work. Get up. Feed the fire. Check the snares. Skin the seal. Do the next thing. Because the next thing is what saves you. Not hope, exactly. The next thing. And you become, all of you, astonishingly resourceful, though it doesn't feel like cleverness at the time. It feels like need, dressed up as invention. You make soap by boiling down wood ash to a grey lye. You make salt by boiling seawater dry in the iron pots you salvaged from the boats, scraping the white crust from the bottom like treasure. You beat frying pans flat out of sheet iron. You bend fish hooks out of nails and twist fishing line out of the tough native flax. You carve sewing needles, and this one stays with you, from the hollow wing bones of the albatross, fine and sharp. And with them, Tyr and your wife sit by the fire and stitch the sealskins into coats and into rough moccasins for your feet, splitting the hides thin with a knife to soften them, the firelight on their faces and their hands moving and moving. You are a crew of castaways, slowly reinventing the small machinery of civilization out of sea lions and seawater and stubbornness. And every clever little thing you make is a small refusal, a way of saying, we are still people, we have not become animals, not yet, not while we can still boil our own salt and carve a needle from a bird. It is a hard, grey, greasy, freezing life. The rain comes near 300 days a year here, and the wind off the Southern Ocean never truly lies down. And there are whole weeks where you do not once see the sun, only the color draining out of one grey day into the next. Your legs swell with some sickness the older men mutter about. Your hands crack. And here is the thing nobody tells you about survival. You can get used to it. The body adapts. The days take a shape. The horror of the wreck recedes into something you don't look at directly, the way you don't look straight at the sun, even when there is one. You become a creature of this island, fed, even, oddly. None of you go to skin and bone on all that fat. You go rather the other way, and that, in its own way, is the most frightening thing of all, because a part of you starts to forget that anyone is coming. But the routine holds the 15 of you together, day after grey day. 14 men, and, among them, your wife. Mary Ann. There are 14 men on this island, and your wife. One woman among 14 men at the bottom of the world for a year and a half. Sit with that for a moment, because she had to. Let me tell you first what she does, because it's extraordinary, and then we'll talk about what it costs. She works. Of course she works. This is a woman who signed a ship's articles to stay beside you, a nominal stewardess, they called her, though she never once acted as one, and a woman like that was never going to sit by a fire and be tended. So when the cold starts winning, it's Mary Ann, alongside Tyr, who answers it. See, your clothes are dying on your bodies. The fine cloth you sailed in is rotting off you, salt stiff and split at the seams, and the wet gets into the holes, and the wind finds the wet, and the cold here is patient. It has all the time in the world. It doesn't need to kill you fast. So the two of them, your wife and the gruff Irishman, set themselves the impossible. How do you turn a dead sea lion into something a person can wear? You watch them learn it. You watch them lay a green hide out and split it along its thickness with a knife, and scrape it, and scrape it, the blade dragging the fat away in long grey ribbons, working the skin between their hands until the stiff board of it goes soft and pliant. There are no needles. So they make needles, actual sewing needles, out of the hollow wing bones of the albatross, whittled down thin with a knife. They twist thread from the flax that grows on the island. And then, in the long dark evenings, by a fire that throws more shadow than light, your wife sews. You hear it more than see it, the small wet sound of bone driven through hide, the pause, the pull of the flax. Trousers and jackets for the men. And for herself, a whole suit of seal skin, a skirt, a little jacket, a cap, shoes with the fur turned inward against her skin for the warmth. Stitch by stitch by stitch, in the firelight, your wife clothes the survivors of the General Grant in the skins of the very animals that are keeping them alive. And it's those same animals you eat. Sea lion, day after day after day, the great hooker's bulls that come ashore on the beaches, taken quick, then butchered and laid over the fire. You will kill more than 1,000 of them before this is over. The meat is dark and oily and strong, and at first it turns every stomach in the camp, runs straight through all of you. But you learn it. The body learns anything if you give it long enough. Mary Ann turns that meat over the coals and boils salt out of seawater in a battered scrap of iron, and there is a strange small joke in it that you only half feel at the time, that on an island where you will go 18 months and 7 days without a single mouthful of bread, with 1 potato each in all that time, your wife is somehow keeping a kitchen. Smoke and seal fat and the grey light. That's the taste of a year and a half of your life. Let me step out of the story for just a breath. If someone you love would find a little peace in a tale like this one, the kind of quiet, human story that's good to fall asleep to, send it their way tonight. Some stories are best heard in the dark, and best when they're shared. There. That's all. Back to the island. And she keeps the signal fires. This is the job that breaks your heart, watching it. Because the main fire keeps you alive, but the signal fires, the ones up on the heights, kept ready to leap into a blaze if ever a sail shows on that grey rim of sea. Those are the fires of hope. And hope, it turns out, is the heaviest work there is. It means fuel, and more fuel, endlessly, scrabbling through soaked scrub and waist-high tussock for anything that will catch. In the rain that falls here nearly every day of the year, in the wind that never fully lies down. You see her go out in the grey morning, and you see her come back in the grey afternoon. And there is a day, there is one particular day, you carry the rest of your life, when you come up over the rise and find her there. Careworn. Worn thin. The few clothes she has left torn to pieces from clawing through the brush to feed those fires. Your own words. Later, I found my wife careworn and depressed, and the few clothes she had on were torn to pieces. You stand there and you feel it land in you, slow and heavy. That tending hope can shred a person faster than despair ever could. And then there is the other thing. The thing the survivors recorded plainly, and I'll give it to you just as plainly, with the dignity it deserves, and no more detail than it needs. 1 woman, 14 men, 18 months. And there came a point when one of the men would not leave Mary Ann be. When his attention turned to something that frightened her and threatened her and could not be allowed to stand. You feel it before you can name it, the change in the air of a place, the way she keeps a little closer to you now, the way your own jaw sets when that man comes near. And it was Tyr, gruff, unkillable Tyr, who put himself between them and ended it. Flatly. Permanently. That was the end of that. I'm not going to dwell there, because the survivors didn't, and because the point of it isn't the threat. It's this, in the worst place on earth, stripped of every comfort and every law that holds men in line, a few people chose, again and again, with no one watching but each other, to be decent, to protect the vulnerable one, to stand between a woman and harm simply because it was right. And that decency keeps you alive as surely as the seal meat and the one fire do. You can't eat it. It holds you together anyway. For you and Mary Ann, there's one mercy folded into all of it. The group builds you your own small hut, a separate little dwelling for the married couple, set a little apart from the rest. Now, understand what that is. It is brushwood and grass, and not much else. It is the poorest home 2 people ever shared. The wind comes straight off the Southern Ocean and worries at the thatch all night, and the rata forest behind you creaks and groans in the dark like a thing alive, and the sea lions roar down on the haul-out beaches, that deep coughing bellow rolling up through the tussock. And yet, inside, there is you, and there is your wife, and there is a low fire, and there is a door you can close. After a wreck that took 68 souls and 5 other women into the cold, you have this: each other and a door to close. It is the poorest home 2 people ever shared, and it is, somehow, a home. And in that little hut, neither of you ever says it out loud, but you feel it all the same, that staying soft is its own kind of courage. Because it would be so easy here, God, it would be the easiest thing in the world to go hard. To stop being a husband and start being just another cold and hungry body fighting over a strip of seal meat. The island is built to do exactly that to a man. It is engineered, weather and hunger, and the long grey sameness of it, to burn the kindness out of you. But you don't let it. You lie down beside her at night with the salt and the smoke in your hair, and you keep being married. You keep being tender. You keep being kind in a place designed to make kindness pointless. And it costs you more than the fire ever does, this, more than the cold, more than the hunger, to stay gentle here, and go on staying gentle, the 2 of you, day after grey day. Outside, the men keep the fire. The seasons turn, and among the 14, a few of them have started, more and more, to look at the boats. You have to understand what waiting does to a person. For the first while, hope is sharp and bright. Surely a ship will come. Surely someone will pass. Surely we won't be here long. You catch yourself watching the headland a dozen times a day, the way you'd watch a door you expected a friend to walk through. But weeks pass, and then months, and no sail ever breaks the horizon. The light here doesn't help. It's grey when you wake, and grey when you sleep. A flat, lidded grey that sits on the sea, 300 days of the year, so that some mornings you can't even find the line where the water ends and the sky begins. The wind never quite stops. The sea lions roar down on the haul-out beaches, those great blackish bulls bigger than a man, bellowing at each other over nothing. And after a while, their roaring stops sounding like animals and starts sounding like the island itself, complaining. And the rain. The soft, patient, endless rain. You stop noticing when it starts. You only notice, sometimes, in the rare hour it stops, how loud the quiet is. And slowly, in some of the men, that bright hope curdles into something heavier. Despair, yes, but also a kind of unbearable restlessness. A feeling that to sit here and wait to be saved is itself a kind of dying. That a man should do something. It's the chief officer, Bartholomew Brown, who feels it worst. See, he's an officer of the ship. A man used to the quarterdeck, to giving orders and having them run down the deck like water. And he's spent 9 months watching a gold miner, a passenger, a man who'd have touched his cap to him in another life, take the helm of all their lives, light the one fire, keep the roster, hold them together. Tyr never did it unkindly. That's almost the worst of it. There was nothing for Brown to push against. He just sank. lower and lower, into a darkness no fire could reach, while the burly Irishman kept them all alive. You'd see him sometimes at the edge of the firelight, the chief officer looking out at the black water like it was asking him a question. And one day, he answers it. He will not wait anymore. He will take a boat and a few good men, and he will sail for New Zealand, and he will bring back rescue. Now, let me lay out what that means plainly, the way Brown surely knew it and chose it anyway. New Zealand is the better part of 500 kilometers away, across some of the most violent open ocean on the planet, the furious 50s, where the swell comes round the whole bottom of the world with nothing to break it. The boat is one of the little quarter boats off the wreck, no more than 20 feet, patched and decked over with sealskin to throw off the seas. You can picture the work that went into it, the hide split and softened with a knife edge, sewn with needles carved from albatross bone and thread teased out of flax. Every stitch meant to keep the cold ocean on the outside of 4 men. And they have no compass, no chart, no instrument of any kind to find their way. Just the sun when there is sun, and the stars when there are stars. And in these latitudes, there is mostly neither, just grey cloud and grey sea, run together at a horizon you can't trust. Brown doesn't go alone. 3 others choose to go with him. William Scott, Andrew Morrison, Peter McNevin. I say their names because they had them, 4 men, not a number, and because after this morning, no one on this earth will ever be able to say for certain what became of them. On the 22nd of January, 1867, 9 months into your time on the island, the 4 of them climb into that boat. The whole camp comes down to the water to see them off. And here, I think, is one of the quiet, terrible hinges of the whole story, and I won't tell you what to feel about it, because the survivors themselves never could. Because, you see, who's right? The men staying believe that to leave is madness, a death sentence, throwing your life away on a hopeless gamble. The men going believe that to stay is the real death, slow, passive, waiting for a rescue that will never come, while you could be doing something. Both of them are looking at the same grey horizon and seeing opposite things. And there's no way to know who's right. There's no way to know. You stand on that beach in the cold. The shingle is wet under your sealskin shoes. The spray comes off the sea and salts your lips. Behind you, the sea lions go on roaring like they always do, indifferent, as if this were any other morning. Mary Ann is beside you, small against the wind. And you watch 4 men you've survived beside for 9 months. Men you've shared seal meat with, kept watch with, lain awake near in the long nights, weighed out and steady that little boat against the wash. A part of you wants to call out to them to stop. A part of you wants to climb in. You can't tell which is the voice of love and which is the voice of fear. You envy their hope. You're sure you'll never see them again. And you cannot tell which part of you is wisdom and which is just a man too frightened to gamble. The boat reaches the open water. The oars come in. The little sealskin sail goes up and fills with that endless wind, and it shrinks and shrinks against that enormous grey emptiness, and then it's gone. For a while, you let yourself hope it was the brave choice and not the doomed one. Every morning you climb to the lookout and you put your eyes on the horizon, and you tell yourself that any day now, a rescue ship will come around the headland, sent by 4 men who made it through, who are sitting in some warm Invercargill room this very moment, telling people where you are. You feed that hope the way you feed the fire, deliberately, because to let it go cold feels like a betrayal. Days pass that way, then weeks. The sea stays empty. The grey stays grey. And slowly, without anyone ever saying it aloud, because what would there be to say? The hope of that boat goes out the way a fire goes out, when there's no one left to feed it. Not in a moment. By inches. By the patient machinery of the empty horizon, morning after morning after morning. Brown and his 3 men rode over the edge of the grey world that morning, and the grey world closed quietly behind them. 15 of you reached this island. Now you are 11. Let me give you something steadier for a while, because you've earned it, and because survival isn't all peaks of horror. Most of it is the long, flat middle, and the middle is where the real work of endurance is done. Not long after Brown's boat leaves, the group makes a sensible, practical decision. You move from the old huts at Port Ross across to nearby Enderby Island, where the seals are thicker on the ground, and the living is not easy, but easier. And there's a strange comfort in the move. It's a project. It's a purpose. You ferry across what little you have, the iron pots, the precious fire carried glowing in something that will hold it, the seal's skin still stiff with salt, and you start again on new ground. You cut brushwood and you bind it, and you thatch it over with grass, and your hands, which were a sailor's hands once, soft only at the palm, are something else now, cracked, salt burned, the nails black, the skin of them gone, the color and toughness of the hides you sleep under. You build the huts low against the wind. You build a little one off to the side, a married couple's dwelling, you and Mary Ann, a wall of woven brush between the 2 of you and the rest of the men. And for a little while, there's almost a rhythm to it that feels less like suffering and more like just living. Hard, cold, greasy living, but living. You'd be amazed what a person can get used to. The roar of the sea lions becomes ordinary. And they are a roar. The hookers' bulls, blackish-brown, 3.5 meters of them, 450 kilos of muscle and temper, hauled out on the breeding beaches with their coarse manes up, bellowing at each other and at you, and at the grey sky over Sandy Bay, until the sound stops being terror and becomes simply the noise your home makes. You learn the smell of them, the rank, fishy, ammoniac, stink of the haul-out, and after a while you stop smelling it at all, because you smell of it too. The taste of seal becomes ordinary. That dark, oily, livery meat that ran everyone's bowels raw at the start. You've clubbed and butchered and boiled and choked down so many of them now. The count runs past 1,000 that your tongue has simply made its peace. No bread. You can't remember bread, not really, not the give of it. 1 potato each in all this time. And there's a plain line of yours that holds the whole of it, 18 months and 7 days, and never the taste of bread. The wind and the rain become ordinary too. 300 days a year of grey. In these latitudes, rain you can set your watch by. A wind over 60 an hour that never seems to lie down. A summer that barely climbs past 15 degrees, and a winter that sits at 6 and damp and reaches into the marrow of you. You stop railing against it. You simply lean into it, the way the rata trees on the slopes have learned to lean. Those gnarled, twisted, haunted little trees, bent landward by a lifetime of the same wind. That flower, a dark blood red in the summer, as if the whole forest were quietly bleeding. The body adjusts. It's a remarkable, terrible thing, how the body adjusts. And the days hold. Tears' sealskin calendar marks them off, 1 scratch at a time, on the stretched, dried hide, a tally of a life being spent in scratches. You feed the fire, that one fire, lit from that one match, the thing that must never go out, and you've half forgotten there was ever a moment it nearly didn't catch, because now it's just always there, breathing in the middle of camp, day and night, fed in turns. You sow. In the long evenings, by that firelight, you and Mary Ann work the seal skins, split them thin with a knife to soften them, punch them through with needles you've carved from albatross bone, stitch them with thread pulled from flax, into coats, into shoes, into the rough armor that's keeping you all alive. You stand your watches on the heights, scanning the empty sea. The body endures. The routine holds. But the middle is long. So very long. And it's in the long grey middle that a different enemy gets at you. Not the cold, not the hunger, but the slow, dripping fear that the world has simply forgotten you. That somewhere out there, in England and in Australia, you have already been wept over and given up for dead. That the ledger has been closed. There's no relief depot on these islands, no drum of biscuit and blankets cached somewhere against castaways like you. Nobody ever thought to leave one. There's only what you can kill and what you can build. And no one is searching, because no one knows anyone is here. The sea is empty every morning when you wake, and empty every night when you lie down, and the emptiness starts to feel less like waiting and more like a verdict. Now, here is the strange cruelty of the thing. You aren't even starving, not in the way you'd picture a castaway. The diet is fatty enough that you're all, oddly, rather full in the face, almost chubby, not the rack of bones the word castaway puts in your mind. The legs are another matter. The swellings come, the scurvy sickness, the aches that mean the body is going short of something the seal meat can't give it. And there are stretches when all but a handful of the men are sick at once. But it isn't the body that's losing this fight in the long middle. It's the part of you that has to keep believing a sail will come. And into that long grey middle comes a death. His name is David McClelland. He's from Ayr, in Scotland, and he's the oldest among you, 62 years old, which on that island, in that cold, in that wet, is very old indeed. You've watched him fail by degrees, the way you watch the light fail in the afternoon, slow, and then all at once. Illness, the cold, the years, the want, they all come due in the same season. And in the September of 1867, after more than a year of it, his body simply gives out. One of the men you've survived beside all this time, eaten beside, shivered beside, slips away from you into the wet ground at the bottom of the world. You bury him. And there's a detail in this that says everything about the state you're all in by now, and I'll give it to you in a survivor's own words, because I can't improve on them. They were, by this point, so worn down, so weak, so broken by the months, that as they carried their friend to his grave, one of them said simply, "All cripples, we bore him to his grave." All cripples, carrying their dead, at the bottom of the world, with no one coming. 15 reached the island, then 11. Now you are 10. You feel that number, I think. 10? You feel how small a fire 10 people make on a beach the size of an ocean's edge. And still, and this is the quiet, unkillable thing in you, the thing that is worth more than any gold gone down in any cave. Still, the next morning, somebody climbs the heights again. Still, somebody feeds the fire. Still, Mary Ann mends the torn seal skin, and you go down to the haul out with the club, because the alternative to hope here is simply to lie down, and you have decided, without ever once saying it aloud, that you are not going to lie down. Winter loosens, eventually, the way even the worst winters do. The light comes back, a little longer each grey day. The seals return to the beaches to breed, the bulls bellowing their territories all over again. It's November now, late spring, in this upside-down half of the world, and you've been on this island so long that a second summer is coming round to meet you. You feed the fire. You climb the heights. You scan the grey sea, the way you've scanned it 1,000 mornings, expecting nothing, because nothing is what the sea has always given you. And on one of those grey mornings, far out on the water, there is a shape that does not belong. A sail. You almost don't trust your own eyes. You've wanted this so badly for so long that your mind has surely conjured it before, out on the grey rim of the world, in the half-light of one more wet morning, the shape of deliverance that turns out to be only cloud, only a trick of the swell, only wanting. So you stand, very still. You don't shout. Not yet. You let the cold wind come off the water and into your seal skins, and you look, and you make yourself look properly, the way you'd look at a far light from a masthead when you were young and your eyes were the best aboard. But no, the others see it too. You hear it in the sound a man makes when hope hits him in the chest, that catch, that broken half-word. Out there, real, a ship standing in toward the islands. After 18 months of empty horizon, there is a ship. Now everything happens at once. You light the signal fires, the fires Marianne has tended and gathered fuel for through all these months. The bushes and the grass dragged up the slope until the few clothes on her back tore to pieces with it, ready for exactly this, for this single morning out of 500. The damp brush catches and the smoke goes up grey into a grey sky, and you pile on more and more, and your hands are shaking, and you can't make them be still. You wave. You shout till your throat tears. You do everything 10 desperate souls can do to be seen across miles of open, heaving water, every one of you, bearded and ragged and stitched into the skins of the animals that have kept you alive, waving at a speck of canvas as if you could pull it in by will alone. And the ship sails on. I need you to feel this, because it's one of the cruelest moments in the whole long ordeal. She's a cutter called the Fanny, and whether her people don't see your smoke against all that grey, or see it and take it for a trick of the island, or simply can't credit that anything human could be living down here at the bottom of the world, she does not turn. She does not come. She holds her course. And you watch her. You watch her the whole way, the way you'd watch the face of someone you love walking off and not looking back, telling yourself any second now, any second she'll come about, any second a topsail will swing, and she doesn't. She holds her line, and she shrinks, and she thins to a fleck, and then the sea closes over the place where she was, as if she'd never been there at all. The horizon shuts like a door. I can't tell you what that night is like. To have hope held out and then snatched back. You don't speak much. The fire that has not gone out in 18 months burns on between you all, and you sit near it. And the sea lions roar somewhere down on the haul-out beach in the dark, the way they always do, indifferent. And the rain comes the way it always comes. And some of you, I think, come nearer to giving up in that one black night than at any time in the whole 18 months. Because it's one thing to be forgotten. It's another to be seen and left. But here is the mercy, and it comes fast. Because 2 days later, 2 days, there is another sail. This one is a brig called the Amherst. She's a sealing vessel out of Bluff, away north in New Zealand, under a captain named Paddy Gilroy, with a crew that's largely Maori. And she's run down to these islands to hunt the same seals you've been eating for a year and a half, with no notion on earth that there are 10 living people down here who have prayed for a ship exactly like her since before last winter. And this time, your signals are seen. You don't wait politely to be collected. There's no waiting left in you. You get your one remaining boat into the water. The others are gone, lost, or rowed away over the horizon, and you pull for that ship with might and main. 10 gaunt bodies dragging on the oars, the cold spray coming over the bow and into your faces, and none of you feeling it, your hearts going like the oars, faster than the oars. You measure the distance in strokes, You measure your whole life in the next stroke. And you come up alongside the Amherst shouting, weeping, half mad, with 18 months of it pouring out at once. And here's a thing that's almost funny, and would be entirely funny if it weren't so close to unbearable. The sealers look down over the rail at the creatures rowing toward them out of the cold, and they're frightened. Truly frightened. Because what's surging up at them isn't a tidy boatload of shipwreck survivors, as anyone would picture them, pale and pitiful in the rags of good clothes. It's a boatload of wild men. Beards matted to the chest, hair hanging to the shoulders. Every soul among them sewn head to foot into rough seal skin, skin gone weathered and dark, and, strangely, against all sense, not even starved looking but oddly hale, ruddy, almost chubby on all that fat seal meat, which only makes the apparition stranger. And they're roaring up out of nowhere at the edge of the earth, in a tongue the sealers half recognize as their own. For one held breath, the rescuers are afraid of the rescued. And then someone understands. Someone says the word. And then there are hands, real hands, reaching down over the rail. And then you are being hauled up the side of a sound ship, a whole ship, a ship that is not, for once, trying to kill you. And it is over. It's over. Do you remember, at the very start, the breath we took together? The long sigh, the slow letting go that tells the body it's safe. This is the moment that breath was made for. 18 months of held breath, of fear, of cold, of holding on and holding on and holding on, and now, on the deck of the Amherst, with rough kind hands, steadying you and your wife, safe at your side, and the smell of tar and pipe smoke, and the warm animal nearness of other human beings all around you, after so long, with only 14 faces and then 10, you can finally let it go. You let it out. The longest exhale of your life. You feel it leave you and your knees nearly go. There's a blanket round your shoulders that isn't sealskin, wool, dry wool, and you'd forgotten what dry felt like. There's warmth that you didn't have to keep alive yourself. There's food that isn't seal, the first bread in 18 months and 7 days, and when they put it in your hand, I'd wager you weep over it, over a heel of ship's bread, the plainest thing in the world, turning it over like it's the gold itself. There's the almost unbearable strangeness of ordinary human kindness, a stranger's voice gone gentle, after so long, with only each other and the wind. And there's Mary Ann. You find her in the press of it, and you don't let go of her hand. The handkerchief is long gone, the one you tied round her head that first black night, to keep her hair from her eyes while you lowered her into the sea. But your hand remembers the work it did, and it will not, now, be parted from hers. The Amherst isn't finished her own season, so you'll be aboard her a couple of months yet, while she takes her seals and works her way home. But that's nothing. That's a held breath against all the breath behind you. You are found. You are saved. You're going home, for real. this time to be landed at last on the New Zealand coast at Invercargill by way of Bluff in the deep of the coming summer, on solid ground with a roof and a road and a future. And as the islands finally fall away astern, the black cliffs, the rudder gone dark in the mist, the roar of the sea lions thinning out behind you, you stand at the rail of the Amherst, with Mary Ann beside you, the two of you alive, against everything, against all reasonable odds, and the whole patient cruelty of that sea, and you let yourself think the thought you haven't dared think in a year and a half. We made it. Down behind you, in 18 fathoms of cold black water, inside a cave in a cliff at the bottom of the world, your fortune is still sitting exactly where it sank. But you're not thinking about the gold. Not now. You've stopped thinking about the gold entirely. And that, though you'd never reach for so grand a word, standing here with nothing to your name but a sealskin suit and a living wife, is the richest you have ever been. It takes the Amherst 2 more months to finish her season, and then she turns north, and one day, in January of 1868, you sail into Bluff, at the bottom of New Zealand's South Island, and you step onto a wharf, and you are back in the world. And the world, Joseph, does not feel solid under your feet. See? You've spent the better part of 2 years on ground that gives, peat that drinks your boot print, sand that slides, the wet deck of an open boat that lifts and falls with the swell. The first thing a wharf does is refuse to move. You set your foot down and the planking just holds, stays put. After 18 months, your legs have forgotten the trick of trusting a floor, and so you stand there a moment longer than a man ought to, swaying a little, waiting for the dock to do what the sea always did. It doesn't. And something in your chest, some animal that has been braced for a long, long time, doesn't quite know how to unclench. Try to imagine it through your own eyes. For nearly 2 years, your entire universe has been 15 people, then 11, then 10, a fire, a beach, and the grey sea. And now, a town. Buildings. Streets. Strangers who are not starving. Children who have never clubbed a sea lion. The smell of bread from a bakery, of horses, of wood smoke from 100 chimneys, instead of your one guarded fire. It's almost too much. The ordinary world, which you left without a thought, comes rushing back in and nearly knocks you down with how unbearably normal it all is. Listen to it. That's the thing that undoes you. Not the sights, the sound. Cartwheels on stone. A dog. A door slamming somewhere and nobody flinching. A woman laughing in a doorway about nothing at all. For a year and a half, the loudest things in your life were the roar of the bull sea lions hauling out on the beach, the gulls, the wind coming off the Southern Ocean with nothing to break it. And underneath all of it, always, always, the boom and suck of the swell against the cliffs. You learned to sleep inside that noise. Now, there's the small clatter of a town going about its evening, and it lands on you, strange and bright and a little frightening, because every single sound in it means a thing you'd half stopped believing in. It means people. Warm, fed, unbothered people who do not know your name, going home to supper. And the bread. Lord, the bread. You catch it on the air before you see the shop, that warm, yeasty breath out an open door, and your whole body turns toward it the way a plant turns to a window. 18 months and 7 days, and not one mouthful of bread in any of them. You can taste seal still, if you're honest. You'll taste it for years. That dark, oily, faintly sickening richness that kept you all alive, and that not one of you ever learned to want. So you stand in the street with the smell of a baker's oven going through you like a tide, and your eyes sting, and you couldn't rightly tell anyone why. Mary Ann is beside you. She came home. Of the 6 women who boarded that ship in Melbourne, your wife is the one walking up a wharf into the smell of bread, and her hand is in yours. And it is the only thing you are entirely sure of in this whole loud, solid, impossible town. The story of you goes ahead of you. 10 castaways, back from the dead, 18 months on the Auckland Islands. It's the kind of tale that races through a colony, and soon it's in the newspapers across New Zealand and Australia. There's an official inquiry at Bluff, under the Rec Act, to get the whole thing down on the record, and it's Tia, of course it's Tia, who's chosen to speak for all of you. People want to see the wild survivors. They want to touch the seal skins. And you let them look. What else is there to do? You stand at the edge of these rooms in your sealskin coat, the one Mary Ann split and softened with a knife, stitched with a needle she carved from albatross bone, and you watch faces, watch you. Some go pale, some go hungry, leaning in for the gory bit. A few, the kind ones, just go quiet, the way people do at a graveside. You've come back, not quite a man and not quite a story, something in between, and you can feel the town deciding which one to make of you. And here's the bitter joke at the bottom of it all, the one you can almost laugh at, almost. You came home with nothing. Think about it. You went to that ship with a small fortune, your own honest gold, years of it, sewn close and carried careful. Every ounce of it is at the bottom of the sea, inside that cave. The other miner's gold, gone. The ship's gold, gone. And because the General Grant sailed under the American flag, and your foreigners washed up on a British colony's shore, there's little in the way of official help to be had. You can do the arithmetic of it yourself. The American consul down in Melbourne reckons your whole loss, your whole near death, at £5, 11 shillings, and 5 pence a head. That's it. That's the going rate for surviving the unsurvivable. You hold the coins in your hand, and you feel that almost laugh come up your throat again, the kind that's the close cousin of weeping. A subscription gets taken up, kind strangers passing the hat, and part of that money goes to send the Amherst back out to search for Brown's boat, the 4 men who rowed away. She finds nothing. Of course, she finds nothing. The grey world closed behind them a year ago. So, what do? A penniless survivor with the most extraordinary story in the colony. You do what Tyr does, what several of you do. You put the seal skins back on, and you tell the story. People will pay to hear it, to see the very clothes Mary Ann stitched with albatross bone on that far island. There's a photographer in Melbourne, a man named Hewitt, who sits the two of you down in his studio in 1868 and makes your likeness in your castaway skins. And folk buy it. This picture of the sailor and the lady of the Auckland Islands, dressed in the dead seals that kept them breathing. Strange, isn't it, to be made into a picture? To hold so still while a stranger counts, when for 18 months your whole survival was never holding still, always gathering, clubbing, splitting, sewing, feeding the fire that mustn't go out. Woo? Now you sit, and you're an image, a keepsake, a thing on a parlor mantel. And your wife, it turns out, becomes rather good at this. She lectures about the ordeal in her sealskin outfit and earns, over time, as much as £600 telling the tale of the 18 months. Picture her up there, Joseph. The young woman who was so cramped from 3 days in an open boat that she couldn't use her limbs for months. The woman you found careworn, her clothes torn to rags from hauling brush to keep the signal fires burning. She stands now in a warm hall, in front of strangers who have never been cold a day in their lives, and she tells them, steady, plain, the only one of 6 who can. And they lean in, and they pay. £600, a pound, and a story at a time. There's a strange justice in that, isn't there? The fortune in the hold was lost forever. But the story of losing it, the story of the two of you, alive, that turns out to be worth something after all. You and Mary Ann don't go to Devon in the end, not to stay. You settle in Victoria, in Australia, the country where you met and married. You, a sailor who survived the unsurvivable, become, of all the quiet, ordinary, blessed things, a station master on the railways. Now, think on the shape of that life. A man who once stood 7 hours in a black sea cave with the spars coming down and the boulders falling and the sea killing the ship by inches around him. That same man stands on a sunlit platform with a watch in his hand and sends the trains out on time. The bell, the whistle, the doors. The timetable that says a thing will arrive when it says it will, and then it does. After the Auckland Islands, where nothing ever came, when you prayed for it, and the only ship that mattered came 18 months and 7 days too slow. Can you imagine what it is to be the man who makes the schedule keep its word? Day after safe, dull, beautiful day. And you live a long life, Joseph. You live all the way to 1898, more than 30 years past that cave, an old man who once was young in the worst night the sea ever made. That's your story. You get to grow old. You get to keep your wife. It's everything you were rowing for. But the gold doesn't get an ending. The gold is still down there. It was down there when you sat for that photograph, and it is down there still. And there has never been a shortage of people who cannot stop thinking about it, who hear your story and feel the pull of that drowned cave and go looking. The fortune outlived the men who lost it. It is, even now, the part of this tale that refuses to lie still. You have to understand the pull of it. Somewhere off that cliff, in a flooded cave nobody can quite find, sits a fortune in gold, the bank's gold, the miner's gold, the rumored gold, swollen larger with every retelling until people speak of sums that would make a king dizzy. It's just sitting there, in the dark, waiting. All a person has to do is go and get it. That's how it sounds when you say it by a warm fire far from the water. Easy. A few weeks' sail and a strong man with a rope. Nobody, telling it that way, feels what you feel, the actual weight of that coast. They've never stood off it. They've never watched the swell come in off 3,000 miles of open ocean and lift a 1,000-ton ship and grind her against the rock, lift and grind and drop. They picture a chest of coins on a sandy bottom, a hand reaching down into clear shallows. They don't picture 25 fathoms of black water under a sheer wall, and a cave so deep and so high, a full-rigged ship sailed bow first into the throat of it and was swallowed without a trace. They don't picture the fog that lies on that sea like a low grey lid, so you can't tell water from cloud from stone. They've never had to. You have. So when you hear they're going back, your stomach does something the people round the fire don't understand. And so they go. They start almost before you're warm and fed. The very first attempt comes in 1868, the same year you walk off the Amherst. A little paddle tug called the Southland steams down to the islands to find the wreck and lift the gold, and aboard her is a man who knows exactly where it is, because he was there. James Tier. Your Tier. The burly Irishman who lit the one fire and would not let it die. The man who kept the days scratched on a strip of dried sealskin so the rest of you wouldn't lose count of your own lives. He goes back. Think of that. He had 18 months and 7 days to learn that coast by heart. Every haul-out beach where the sea lions roared. Every grey dawn that came up the color of ash. And the moment he's free of it, he turns around and sails straight back into its mouth. He stands off that same shore where the General Grant died and looks at those same cliffs. You can almost feel him there at the rail, can't you? The cold rising up off the water, the spray going to ice on his beard, the sound of that surf he'd know anywhere in the world. And the weather, the eternal, murderous weather of those islands, the wind that never truly stops, the rain that falls something like 300 days of the year, drives the Southland off without so much as a dive. The sea won't even let them try. It just leans on the little tug, patient and enormous, until she has to run for her life. Tier goes home with nothing but the cold back in his bones. Then comes 1870. And the first have to tell you this one carefully, slowly. Because of all the cruel turns in this long hunt, there is none crueler than this. A schooner called the Daphne sails for the islands, and aboard her drawn back to the scene of the worst night of his life, is another of your fellow survivors, David Ashworth. The same Ashworth who swam through the breakers that dawn, who went into that backwash off the rocks where the longboat swamped and 40 souls drowned in the white water, and somehow came up alive and was hauled over the gunwale of a boat. The same Ashworth who ate the seal meat with the rest of you, the dark, rank, oily flesh that turned every stomach in the camp, the meat you choked down because there was nothing else. No bread, not for 18 months and 7 days, 1 potato each the whole time. The same Ashworth who slept cold and woke cold, and learned to wear the skins of the seals he killed, stitched with needles, whittled from albatross bone. He survived the General Grant. He earned his way out of that grey, and he cannot stay away from her gold. The Daphne reaches the coast. A small boat puts out, Ashworth and several others aboard, to work in toward the cliffs to find the cave. And the first want you to sit with how familiar that must have felt to him. The thwart hard under him, the oar handle in his palms, the cliff growing taller and blacker as they pull in toward it, the swell lifting the little boat and dropping it, lifting and dropping, that same motion that took the ship. He's done this before. He knows this water. And the sea, the same indifferent sea, takes them. The boat is swamped. 5 or 6 men are lost, Ashworth among them. A man who walked out of the worst shipwreck in the colony's memory, drowned 3 years later, in almost the very spot, reaching for the treasure that nearly killed him the first time. Do you feel it? The shape of the thing? The gold doesn't reward anyone. It only takes... It took 68 people the night the ship went down, and now it's begun taking the survivors, one by one, who can't let it lie. And the ones who go back aren't fools or strangers. They're the men who were there. The men who, of all the people on Earth, ought to know better. But they don't stop. Of course they don't. In 1876, a third expedition goes, the schooner Flora, and aboard her, yet another General Grant survivor, Cornelius Drew, come to guide them to the cave he last saw from a sinking deck. Picture what he's offering them, not a map, not a rumor, but his own memory of those final hours. The cliff face burned into him forever. And the weather beats them too. The wind, the swell, the grey lid of fog. The islands hardly seem to notice he's come back. They turn him away the way they turn everyone away, without cruelty, without mercy, simply because that is what that sea does. The next year, 1877, a steamer called the Gazelle gets closer than any of them. She actually manages to find a cave, a likely-looking cave, a cave that might be the cave, a dark slot in the cliff that could be the very throat that took the ship. Imagine standing on her deck and seeing it. Imagine being that close. And then imagine the sea. So wild against those cliffs, the surf exploding white up the rock and falling back in sheets, that they cannot get a single diver down into the water. Not one. Not for a moment. They come all that way, across the whole Southern Ocean. They find the door, and they cannot open it. The sea stands in front of it like a thing alive, and there is simply nothing a man can do. Sit with that a while, in the dark. The door found, and no way through. 3 of the very first attempts, led by men who survived the wreck itself, men who knew the coast, men who had every reason on earth and every memory to guide them. And every one of them turned back empty-handed, and one of them never came back at all. If the survivors couldn't reach it, the men who'd actually been there, who carried that cliff in their sleep, then what chance did anyone else have? Apparently, that question only made the gold more irresistible. What follows, over the decades, is a slow parade of hope and failure, and after a while, it takes on the quality of a legend, the kind of treasure that destroys everyone who reaches for it. And here is the strange thing about a legend. It outlives the people who made it. You're gone, by now, long gone. An old station master who died quiet in his bed, far from that coast and the cold. Mary Ann's gone. Tears gone. The fire you tended for 18 months and 7 days went out the day the Amherst's sail came up over the water, and good riddance to it. But the gold stays. It doesn't age. It doesn't grieve. It sits down there in the dark and the salt and the green-black cold, exactly where it went down under your feet, and it waits. And one by one, across the years, men come to lift it out. Listen to them come. There's a music to it, almost the same notes, over and over, hope rising and hope drowning. Now, the first thing you learn, listening, is that you don't even have to reach the islands to be ruined by that gold. You only have to want it badly enough. In 1908, a man named Sorensen surfaces in New York with a map. Picture the room he works in, warm, dry, the radiators ticking, a city roaring past the window, about as far from a subantarctic cliff as a body can get. And in that warm room, he claims to know exactly where the General Grant lies. He spins it beautifully. $20 million in gold bars and minted guineas, he says, just waiting to be lifted off the seabed, and the figure does its work, the way a big round number always does, and the money comes in. Eager investors, hands reaching for their savings. Until it comes out that the man is a fraud, the map is worthless, and the whole thing collapses. He'd never been near the islands. He'd never felt the wind off that coast, never tasted the salt of it, never heard the swell go lift and grind against the rock. He'd simply understood something true about the gold, that people wanted to believe in it so badly they'd hand over their savings for a piece of paper. See, it isn't the gold that hooks them. It's the wanting. And the wanting, it turns out, you can sell without ever leaving the city. But the men who do go, the ones who feel the real wind, they fare no better. Worse, in some ways, because the coast is allowed to answer them. There's an attempt in 1912. There's one in 1914 that ends in a way that feels almost like the islands, making a quiet, cruel little point. The salvage ship herself is wrecked in those same storms. The would-be rescuers of the gold suddenly needing rescue. You can smile at that in a grim sort of way. The sea has a memory and a sense of irony to match. And then, in 1915 and 1916, something genuinely new. Divers actually get down into the water for the first time. Think about what that means. A man in a hard helmet and weighted boots, going over the side into water so cold it bites through everything. The light failing, the deeper he sinks, until the green goes to gray, goes to a kind of brown, nothing. The whole Southern Ocean breathing above him, lifting and dropping, lifting and dropping. The surge shoving him toward the rock and sucking him back from it. Down there, for the first time, human eyes on that seabed off the cliffs where your ship lies. The first eyes since yours, maybe, watching her go. And then the money runs out. It always runs out. The men come up, the ship turns for home, and the gold stays exactly where it was, untouched, patient, in the dark. And then comes 1925, and the worst news of all, the news that isn't a storm, or a budget, or a fraud, but the coast itself, telling the searchers something they don't want to hear. A diver goes down. He's looking for the mouth of the cave, the great dark doorway your ship was carried through, the one with the ceiling so high you couldn't see it in the black. And where the cave should be, he finds a tumble of rock, boulders heaped and scattered, and jutting up out of them, splintered wood. Just that. Ribs of old broken timber poking from a heap of stone, swaying a little in the surge, grey and soft with the years. A terrible sign. The kind of sign that makes a man go very still down there in the cold. Because there's only one way to read it. The roof of the cave has fallen in. The sea, patient, tireless, working the rock by inches the way it once worked your ship, has brought the whole stone ceiling down. The General Grant isn't in the cave anymore. The cave is on top of the General Grant. The gold is buried under tons of the island's own collapsed roof, pressed down into the seabed, and the door that closed behind you that night, it has closed for good. And that's the thing you come to understand, listening to attempt after attempt fail. The reason the gold is never found isn't that no one's looked. Dozens have looked. The reason is the coast itself, the same coast that killed your ship. Picture it. Picture it the way you knew it, from the inside of a freezing open boat. There's no harbor on that western shore. No bay. No shelter. Just sheer cliffs dropping straight down into deep water, the rock streaming and black, and the whole weight of the Southern Ocean throwing itself against them. Swells that have been building across thousands of miles of open sea, with nothing to stop them. No land, no reef, no breakwater, the long deep heave of half the world. You can't anchor. The bottom drops away to nothing right at the cliff foot, 25 fathoms under the stern, and no purchase for any chain. You can barely hold a ship offshore in the teeth of that wind. The water's freezing and the lights are permanent grey, and the visibility down below is poor, a few feet of murk, and then the dark. And the surge inside those caves could break a diver against the rock in a single heartbeat. Snap him like the jib boom snapped the night you struck. And here's the final cruelty, the one that makes the searchers want to weep. The cliff isn't one cave. It's riddled with them. Caves large enough, the divers would say, to swallow 1,000-ton ship whole, a whole row of dark mouths gaping in the rock, any one of which could be the one. Which one took the general grunt? After all these years, with the landmarks shifted and the survivors' descriptions vague and the roof maybe down, no one can say for certain. They sail the foot of those cliffs, they look up at door after door after door, and they're not even sure which one the treasure is behind. So no, the gold isn't guarded by a curse. There's nothing supernatural about it, nothing of ghosts or hexes. It's guarded by something far more reliable than a curse. It's guarded by the sea, and the cold, and the rock, and the plain, brutal geography of the loneliest coast on earth. The freezing water that numbed Mary Ann's limbs so she couldn't walk for months. The swell that lifted your ship and ground her against the roof. The cliffs with no place to land. The very things that nearly killed you, that did kill 68 souls, those are exactly what keep the gold safe, forever, from everyone who comes for it. The coast took the treasure into itself the night it took the ship, and it has never once loosened its grip. You'd think, by the modern age, with better ships and better gear, someone would finally crack it. You'd think the coast would have to give it up at last. But the coast is in no hurry, and neither, it seems, is the gold. And so you keep listening, here in the dark, to the long, slow music of men, sailing down to that line of black doors and turning, every one of them, for home. The 1970s bring the closest anyone may ever come. But first, the place itself. Picture that coast as it truly is, tonight, in the dark, the way it was the night it took you. A wall of black cliff, 1,000 feet high, running for miles, with the whole weight of the Southern Ocean leaning on it. No harbor, no beach, no place to set a boat and rest. Just the swell coming in off 4,000 miles of open water, lifting and falling against the rock, lifting and falling, the way it has every minute of every hour since the day your ship went down. And the fog, and the cold that gets into the bones of anyone who comes near. See, the men who chase your gold aren't fighting a puzzle. They're fighting a place that does not want them there. And the cliff is honeycombed with caves, caves big enough, every one of them, to swallow 1,000-ton ship whole and never show a splinter of her again. So when a diver hangs off that coast and asks which dark mouth in the rock is the right one, the coast does not answer. By the time these men arrive, the cave has already worn out generations. There was the paddle tug that came within 2 years of your rescue and was driven straight off by the weather. There was the schooner in 1870 that lost a boat full of men trying to reach the cave. One of them, a man who had survived your wreck, drowned now, chasing the very gold he'd already escaped with his life. There were the steamers that found a cave and could not dive it. And there was a man named Percy Catling in 1925 who put a line down where your ship ought to lie and brought up not gold, not timber you could name, but a chunk of solid rock with old ship's wood crushed into it. As if the roof of the cave had come down slowly across the years and folded the wreck into the stone like a hand closing. That should tell you something about what's left to find. And still they come. A Royal Navy commander named John Grattan organizes a serious expedition, and he brings with him New Zealand's most famous diver, a man named Kelly Tarleton, the kind of diver who finds things other people can't, a legend in his own right, along with another good diver named Malcolm Blair. And in 1975, off those cliffs, working between the swells, they find it. A wreck. A real wreck, buried in rock inside a cave, just where the General Grant ought to be. Imagine being down there. The water so cold it aches behind your eyes. The light gone green, then grey, then nearly nothing. The swell that, even 40 feet down, takes you and rocks you against the rock and pulls you back, the same lift and drag that killed your ship, only quieter now, patient. And then, out of that gloom, the shape of a hull held in the stone. After more than a century, has someone finally found her? They bring up what they can, and it comes to almost nothing. A fragment of a ship's bell, with too few letters left on it to read a name. A scrap of bronze, green with the sea, that should have carried her name and carries silence instead. Not enough, to be sure. And here's the detail that should tell you everything. Kelly Tarleton himself, the great diver, the man who has pulled the lost things of the sea up into the light all his life, looks at what they've found and is not convinced it's the General Grant at all. He has doubts. Something about it isn't right. He steps back from it. His doubts turn out to be right, because a later expedition does the patient, unglamorous work of actually identifying that wreck, and it isn't your ship. It's a French sailing vessel called the Anjou, lost on that same hungry coast in 1905, 4 decades after you washed ashore. They'd found a shipwreck, all right, just not the one with the gold. And nearby, another tantalizing sight. Divers come to call it the half-crown sight, scattered with old coins winking up out of the silt. But when the coins are studied, they're older still, from a different wreck entirely, a ship called the Rifleman that went down in 1833, more than 30 years before you ever sailed. Think on that. Every glittering thing they pull from that coast belongs to some other tragedy. Coins from one drowned ship, a bell from another, and never, not once, a single grain of the gold that drowned your friends. The cave keeps its gold. By now, the country itself has tried to call them off. Back in 1960, New Zealand banned the private expeditions outright. Too dangerous, too hopeless, too many men risking their necks for a fortune that would not be found. The islands become a strict nature reserve, a place you need permission just to set foot on. The Rata Forest and the sea lion beaches and the cliffs left to themselves. And still, they come. The most dogged of all is a man named Bill Day, who spends the better part of 35 years and well over $1 million of his own money chasing your gold. Expedition after expedition, dragging instruments along the base of those cliffs, lifting boulders, searching. Think of the patience in that. Think of the grey mornings, year after year, the cold spray, the boat working off a coast that has never once been kind. He gives it one last try in 2022, with the best modern survey gear there is, sweeping the sea floor with magnets that can feel iron buried under stone. And he finds the Anjou again, and the rifleman again. The known wrecks. The same two ghosts everyone finds. Never the General Grant. In the end, even he admits the likely truth, that your ship lies crushed and buried under a collapsed cliff, somewhere down near the Beehive Rocks, folded 20 meters deep into rock and dark. She is, in his own plain, tired words, not coming out. It is cold, miserable, he says of that coast. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And Kelly Tarleton, the great diver, the legend who found the wreck that wasn't yours. He died in 1985, only 47 years old, his heart simply giving out. A man who had spent his whole life finding the lost things of the sea, lying them out, gleaming for the world to see. And the one that mattered most, the one with your friend's fortune in it, he never found. He carried that, I think. Almost no one who reached for this gold got to keep it, and most of them didn't get to keep much else either. Some lost their money. Some lost the chase. A few, like the man on the Daphne, lost their lives. The cave took something from nearly everyone who loved it enough to come looking. Let me step in, very gently, one last time. If this story has brought you any quiet tonight, any calm, any company in the dark, a kind word or a rating wherever you're listening helps another restless soul find their way to a story like this one. Thank you for that. Now, let's bring it home. So there it sits, right now, tonight, as you lie here, a fortune in gold rests in the cold and the dark at the bottom of the world, exactly where it sank more than a century and a half ago, inside a cave no living person can certainly name, under a coast that has defeated everyone who ever loved it enough to come looking. The swell still lifts and falls against the rock the way it did the night you held your wife and went over the side. The fog still comes. The sea lions still roar on the beaches where you once clubbed them for your supper. The richest shipwreck the Southern Ocean ever swallowed. Still down there. Still waiting. Still keeping its own counsel. And the only people who ever truly got away from that gold were the 15 who left it behind. So let's leave the gold where it lies and come back one last time to you. It's years later now. Decades, even. You're far from that cave, on a railway platform in Victoria, perhaps in the long, ordinary afternoon of a life you very nearly didn't get. The light here is warm and dusty and gold, nothing like the other light, the grey light, the light at the bottom of the world that never quite came up and never quite went down. You're the station master now. You, the man who once measured his whole life in the next stroke of an oar. There's a watch in your hand, a good one, and you're holding it the way a man holds a thing he's grateful to own, and you're watching the line for the up train, the safe, ordinary train that always comes, that always comes. Your hair's gone grey. Your hands have gone soft at the knuckles where the cold once cracked them open. And somewhere near is Mary Ann, as she has been through all of it since a far-off morning when you tied a handkerchief around her head in the dark and would not let the sea have her. That handkerchief. You think about it sometimes, I'd guess. On the quiet afternoons, when the platform's empty and the rails are humming faintly with a train that's still 10 minutes out. Such a small thing, a square of cloth from your own neck, knotted in the wet and the dark to keep her hair out of her eyes, while you lowered her over the side on the end of a studding sail boom rope down into a pitching boat, while the spars came down around you like the sky itself was breaking. Such a small thing. And you think about the captain too, Lachlan, up in the mizzen top, another soul beside him, waving his own white handkerchief as the sea closed over the deck and took him down, slowly, so that someone, anyone, would see him go. 2 scraps of cloth on the same terrible morning. One a goodbye. One a refusal to say goodbye. See, you've spent your whole life on the right side of that difference. You know exactly which knot held and which one waved. And you've never once taken it for granted, not in 50 years of safe trains and dusty afternoons. You think about the fire, too, the one that never went out. Of all the matches they had, only one struck. One man had dried the last of them in his own hair, and from that single guttering flame they made a fire that burned for 18 months and 7 days. Someone always tending it. Someone always feeding it brushwood and grass, and whatever the rain hadn't soaked through, hunched over it in the wind, shielding the little orange heart of it with their own body when the gusts came howling off the water. You can still feel it, can't you, if you let yourself? The particular ache of being cold for that long, cold to the bone, cold in your sleep, cold in a way that becomes a kind of background hum to every single thought. And then the fire. The way the warmth would find your hands first, and your face, and you'd close your eyes and just breathe. And it was never only the warmth, was it? It was the small orange proof that you were still here, still keeping watch, still worth saving. And you kept one of those burning your whole life long, the two of you, in a little house far from the sea. Now, there are things you don't talk about much. Not to be secret. Just because some things won't fit into the small change of conversation. The taste of seal meat, oily and dark and endless. The meat that gave the whole camp gripes and that you ate anyway, day after day, because there was nothing else. 18 months, and you never once tasted bread, and 1 potato each, 1, in all that time. The roar of the sea lions on the haul-out beaches, the great blackish bulls bellowing in the grey, a sound so huge it seemed to come up out of the ground. The feel of sealskin against your skin, stiff at first, then softened, where Mary Ann had split it with a knife and worked it supple, sewn with needles she'd carved from albatross bone and thread teased out of flax. You wore the skins of the things you killed to live. You came home in them. And later, do you remember, she stood up in front of strangers in that very sealskin outfit and told the whole story plain, and they paid to hear it, near £600 in the end. You're Mary Ann, the only woman of 6 who walked off that island alive, standing in the light telling a room full of warm, dry, comfortable people what the cold was like. You watched her do it, and you were so proud you could hardly speak. People still talk about the gold, even now. They send their ships and their divers down to that grey, cliff-bound coast, year after year, decade after decade, chasing the fortune sealed in the cave. Some of them never came back from the trying. And maybe, if anyone ever asked you, really asked, not just for a story to tell, you'd tell them the truest thing you know, though you'd say it plainly, without any fuss, because that was always your way. You'd look at them a moment, and you'd tell them they're diving for the wrong treasure, because you were there. You had the gold, held it, earned it in the diggings with your own 2 hands, sewn it away, and carried it halfway across the world toward a house you meant to build. And you watched the sea take all of it in a single night, swallow it whole into the dark of that cave. And you found out, in that cave, in that cold, over those 18 grey months, exactly what a fortune is worth when it's weighed against one warm hand in the dark. Not much. It turns out it's worth not very much at all. And perhaps that's the strange mercy at the heart of it all. The richest thing on that ship was never in the hold. It wasn't the bank's gold locked in its 2 boxes. It wasn't the miners' guineas sewn into their hems. It was the woman you lowered into a boat with a handkerchief around her head. And she made it home. And so did you. The gold stayed in the dark. You walked out into the light. Rest now. You've earned it. Since you made it this far, I'm glad you enjoyed the episode. If you would like to continue listening to episodes with similar themes, I linked them in the description below. You will also find a playlist of our most popular videos. Sleep now, nightlings. And wake up, as always, a little stronger and a little wiser. The story is done, but yours continues.